Spotify. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that quick delay. Had to pause the Spotify. Welcome to the Week Ahead News Show, episode 28, with me, Liam, and my friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be back. Episode 28. We got another show for you. As I've said before, I hesitate to say good show, because what we talk about is not good normally. But we are again. We'll be discussing the news, both the good and the bad. Mainly the bad. We're living in Trump's America here. So thanks again, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, hope everyone had a good weekend. Decent Monday. Weather's been nice. A lot of sun, a lot of heat. We're in a drought right now. It's not going to really rain until next Monday or this Sunday, so we'll have to see. And we'll go right into the weather. Today the high was 84. Low of 56, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, 82, 55. Wednesday, sunny, 80, 53. Thursday, sunny, 81, 54. Friday, partly cloudy, 79, 53. Saturday, partly cloudy, 80, 58. Sunday, like I said, maybe some rain, cloudy, 77, 58. Next Monday, 78, 58. Maybe some rain. We are getting some wind a little bit from the heat. Air quality's been good. UV index right now is low, but it did get to pretty high in the 6. During midday, probably from around 11 to about maybe 4. And then for today, we're getting less sun. Our first light was 6:36. Sunrise was 7:03. Sunset today was 7:31. Last light 7:59. Already, it's already dark like normal when we get here, with about 12 hours and 27 minutes of daylight and way less daylight. We have our daily stocks above us, so some in the green, small percentage it looks like, and weather below as well. If you want to look for temperatures right now, and Tommy will be going into stocks for the last week.
Yeah, so a quick 5-day recap for your stocks. As Lam just said, the current ones are on the screen, but last 5 days, last 5 days, the Dow was up 300 points. The S&P 500 was up 104 points, and the Nasdaq was up 460 points. So all three of the major indexes were up.
Definitely good to see. We'll go into our first topic real quick. Is some funny topics about these tourists who boarded the wrong plane. They wanted to go to France, and they ended up in Africa, I guess, and it was Tunisia. If that's how you say it, I'm not good with the name, but Tunisia,
Tunisia,
Tunisia. Thank you. Uh,
Tunisia. Yep.
so that's interesting. There was a woman. How many? Yeah, 2 American tourists. The women had booked flights from Rome to Nice, but though a mix of airline miscommunication and human error, probably just not looking at your tickets, maybe getting a little tipsy on your flights, on your connecting flights. They wound up on a plane bound for North Africa. They reportedly didn't realize their mistake until the very end, when the captain said, "Welcome to Tunis." Um, Imagine sitting there with your carry-on, thinking, "Wait, uh, what part of France has camels? None of them do, and it's not that hot in France either." Um, the internet, of course, had a field reaction with this since day one. Memes everywhere, people joking about geography lessons, Americans' education, how nice and Tunis sounds just similar enough to cause chaos. Even poking fun how airlines handles boarding these days. But I kind of think that's funny. Like, you just have to look at it. It's pretty easy nowadays. Um, they probably just got a little tipsy and just miscued onto the wrong plane. Um, in the end, the 2 women became the stars of the week's funniest travel fail. They did make it safely back towards their original plans, but not giving the world a reminder: when you travel, don't just pack your bags, pack your common sense too. Make sure you have everything going. Make sure you're relaxed, looking at your tickets, looking at boarding, make sure you're going to the right place. I don't even know how that works. For like customs and just having a passport, you get an extra stamp. You went to North Africa as well as going to France, so that's kind of funny. I wonder if they probably had to pay for that too, so that's probably another grand on there. And that's just hilarious to me. What's your take on this one, Tommy? They're probably pretty ignorant, huh?
I was actually just looking right now on Google to try to find the flight time between Rome and Tunisia. Tunisia. It looks like it might be like an hour or two. Yeah, this is crazy. And the reason why I was looking that up, I was thinking like you're on a flight, and you know how they have like the little screens on the back of the chair in front of you
Yeah,
with the
good point.
map.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like you're not going to check that map one time, but I guess if it's an hour and a half flight, they might not have that sort of, infotainment on that flight. They might not have like a mapping system, but just all in all, like I agree with you. There's no way these people were sober when they got into this wrong plane. They were at the
Mm.
hotel bar. They were breaking out some Jack. They were doing everything. They brought out the bullet. If they're in for a really bad time. Um,
Probably
you
some
know, so
Cosmos.
so it's just crazy, and for someone who has, been on several international flights, like I'm like super OCD about this. Like, I'm like, okay, I gotta check my boarding pass 3 times in a row. Gate 3B, gate 3B. Okay, Tommy, I'm right there. I'm right there. So I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum with this. Is like I'm like super detail oriented when I travel, and I'm always like, I gotta be at the right gate. I gotta be at the right gate, and like I'll know I'm at the right gate, but I'll still check. So that's me. And the fact that like somebody could just be so like, I'm just gonna get on the plane. Just gonna get on the plane, bring out
Yeah.
my flask, go on the jetway. It's just kind of crazy to me. Um, and if they weren't sober, like they needed to devote some of their still sober brain cells to getting off the right plane. Like that had to be like their one goal. And it's just kind of crazy that they didn't. It's just kind of crazy they didn't. Like like damn, check the app, check the boarding pass, check your email with the ticket on it.
Yeah,
Just ask a
exactly.
gate attendant, do anything,
I put it
but
on
get
my
on an
phone in my wallet.
airplane.
It's so easy nowadays. Come on, ladies.
Yeah, yeah. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Come on, people. We're better than this. At least I think we are. Maybe not.
Probably not as Americans with our education and how we are, like you're saying. No. All right.
Just
We're going to go into
crazy.
a national one topic for tonight, which is basically the biggest news topic of last week. A lot of stations already covered it. What we basically doing a recap of everything is what to know about the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination and what happened. Um, Last week, the date and location, September 10th at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. It occurred during a Turning Point USA outdoor event. The nature of the attack, I believe it was like 12:21 or 12:20. Charlie Kirk was given remarks outdoors when he was shot once and killed instantly. Shot in the neck and the jugular. He was shot from a rooftop about 200 yards away from the event. The crowd chaos ensued. There was about 3,000 people there. Event attendees fled as law enforcement responded. People are already saying too. I think they had 6 cops on duty for the local law enforcement. I don't know what the campus said they had, but 1 second, my bad. But for local, what was this Orem? They said they only had 6 cops as a whole, like not on duty, but like on staff. So they probably on like 2 every time. Um, Targeting, before we say the attack was deliberate and premeditated, how tactical it was, it kind of had to be. Investigators believe Kirk was a specific intended target. Since he was the only one attacked, that makes sense too. It wasn't like a mass shooting or a mass casualty event. And the suspect was Tyler James Robinson. He was found, what was it, a day after or 2 days after, Tommy? Do you remember?
Just 2 days.
2 days after. He talked
They
to his dad,
they
and
had
his dad
several
helped him
others.
turn himself in. He's a resident of Washington, Utah, of southern Utah. No known prior criminal record. He was registered to vote but inactive, had not participated in the past 2 general elections. He was not personally affiliated with a political party. Background and behavior. His family described him as quiet, with recent changes in political behavior, becoming more political in recent months and increasingly hostile towards Kirk's rhetoric. Reportedly expressed that Kirk's message was hateful and talked about him at a recent dinner. I guess his grandma did say like everyone in their family was Republican, but like that's how grandmas be sometimes. They don't really know how the grandkids are politically. Um, or know really, the truth, and especially if he's been changed recently. He's definitely seemed to grow up Republican, but he was described by his friends as someone who recently spent more time online engaging with radical political content. His mental health and stability. There was no official records of mental illness reported so far. The family told investigators that his behavior shifted dramatically in the last year. The evidence investigation, physical evidence. There's also a lot of CCTV footage of him around the area before, after, and during the event on top of the roof. The rifle believed to be the murder weapon was found with a towel wrapped around it in the woods by the campus. DNA evidence found of a towel matched Robinson. Ballistics linked the rifle to the one shot that killed Kirk. Searches conducted. The FBI and local police searched Robinson's home, seized computers, phones, and other electronic devices. Cooperation. Robinson is not cooperating with the authorities at this time. The motive is still under investigation. Authorities cite possible leftist ideological motivations, especially because who he attacked and probably like how he became radicalized or saying online. They're going to know more looking at his computers and his social media, Discord, stuff like that. Family and acquaintances report Robinson's political radicalization online and disdains for Kirk's views. Investigators are examining whether Robinson acted alone or was influenced by outside groups. Personally, I don't know if he was just. It's too early to say, but it kind of seems like he was probably just like radicalized by the internet and online like echo chambers to do craziness. The legal proceedings. Charges: he's charged for aggravated murder for the murder, discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily harm, which you get charged for that, doing that in public and around a lot of people, and then obstruction of justice, which he got for tossing of a weapon. Custody, he is being held without bail. Court proceedings, the first court appearance is expected to be a week following the arrest, with formal charges to be filed by prosecutors soon. Political and public reaction. The Utah Governor Spencer Cox condemned the assassination as an attack on democracy and political discourse. Law enforcement stressed that political violence has no place in America, which I personally agree with. I condemned the violence. Turning Point USA issued statements mourning their founder, called the act politically motivated murder. Memorials, there's Virgils, and tributes to Kirk held across the country the night he passed and days after. Flags flown at half staff in several places. I saw about like 8 NFL teams had a tribute for him yesterday, and then some of his fans were like calling out to cancel the ones that don't. It really doesn't matter. Some places they're gonna like him more than others. I guess Arizona's holding his like funeral for Arizona Cardinal Stadium. They were one of the teams that did do it, so that makes sense. He's from Arizona. At least that's like where he's living. The wider debate, renewed national conversations on political violence, concerns about online radicalization fueling extremism, which we see time and time again from school shootings and other political attacks, raises questions on security at political events and universities, which we kind of need. You may want to look this up, but I think they were saying how like Ben Shapiro canceled all of his university talks after this, probably because of a threat, but also like he's like, well, how much do I have to pay to actually have good security? And they're probably like a lot, and he's like, okay, never mind. Raises questions on, like I already said that. Key unknowns though, with a full motive is still not determined. Whether Robinson had accomplices, like I said, they're going to be looking for that, or he acted fully alone. The role of online content or communities in his radicalization. He had a roommate. If his roommate knew anything, he's kind of talked a little bit about that, and him being online a lot. Potential future federal charges since the incident involved interstate weapons purchase and political violence. Personally, like, I've talked with a lot of people. I definitely condemn it. I don't agree with a lot of things that he said politically, but I don't think he should be murdered for that either. So that's just for me. It's definitely a crazy event. It's sad that a lot of people are comparing him to like Martin Luther King. I don't agree with that. I'm not saying he should have been murdered, but I don't think he's MLK. Just me personally, based on how you preach, and that's just kind of me. I always say like you remembered how you lived, and he definitely created good movements for the right, but definitely had some extreme views for me. So that's my take on it. But like I said, I condemn it, and like I still go a little bit deeper in that, like even like minor things like we saw with the Teslas, me and Tommy were condemning just because like you shouldn't mess with people's stuff um, over politics. A lot of it just should be talking, discourse, and debate. America's kind of like as both sides become a little bit more like not radicalized, but even like energy like charged up just to do crazy stuff. We have to be safe about that, and I don't think that this is the right step for America because then the right side's gonna want to act revenge. Just for talks is already just crazy. Before they even caught the guy, they were saying he was a leftist, which like personally like if you're like oh well someone's attacking us, they have to be the opposite side, like you're a sheep or like eating that drinking that Kool-Aid of that we are divided as a country. Um, Sometimes it's your own side attacking you, and you see that sometimes too. Like that's basically like groupthink. You know what I mean? If someone you're working with is like, hey, I think you could do better in this, gives you feedback, and you just freak out on them and say, no, you're wrong, canceled. Like, no, that's just not how things work nowadays. Um, and I think a lot of the talk on war, like people on the right fueling this war, we even seen it on Fox News now, for Christ's sake. Like you would normally think that would be something that you'd see on Twitter, but not really just on Fox News talking about it. It's not like fair because each side of the aisle. I don't think everyone on the right is people that are people that commit political extremism. I just don't think that, or political murder. I don't think that. One of the two people in Minnesota, um, lawmakers, got murdered out there. You know what I mean? We condemned it, and we never said that's everyone on the right. That's not a fair assessment to make. So you can never make that. It's more fuel to like basically um, burn the fire of hate in this country. So don't watch the news because both sides are gonna try to fuel that fire. That's what they make money doing. What do you think about this, Tommy?
Well, I like you, I wholeheartedly condemn what happened to Charlie Kirk. I don't believe in political violence of any kind. I believe that, that we settle our political differences at the ballot box, not at, and we shouldn't have to, and it's certainly not appropriate to resort to violence. So, like me, myself, and like many other people, I condemn the sort of political violence that was perpetrated against Charlie Kirk. Like personally, of course, I think Charlie Kirk spread a lot of hateful rhetoric that I don't condone or agree with. But certainly he didn't need to be shot and killed for expressing political opinions. So I condemn the sort of political violence that's going on right now in Utah.
And it's sad to see like the extremism right now is crazy. Where like people on Facebook that like for first time I'm talking with them about the situation, they're just like, "Well, you're so happy that he died. You're praising it," and I'm like, "That's not what I'm doing. Like I'm just saying like he said bad things. That is it." And like don't compare him to people like King because I don't think that's right. Like a lot of these people never even watched a full King speech, let alone most of them and read most of his stuff. But if you watch a lot of and read a lot about both of these people, you will feel different ways, and that's just the truth about it. And like yes, he was for free speech. A lot of people are for free speech. And like my mom said, like a lot of it's interesting that history repeats itself. It's just, and this is personally my take a little bit too, is that we're seeing a little bit of it happening to the white people more and their effects of it. You know what I mean? When it happens to minorities, African Americans like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, both of them got shot. Martin Luther King died horribly, got shot in the face. There's people on the right now that laugh about that and don't think that like we should celebrate MLK Day to this day. So a lot of this is just like it's sad that's happening, but like to me, it's like for balance, the scales of like history kind of like it's like balance itself out that like we're gonna get normal eventually, and that everything will be okay. And like we are the majority people in America, white people. So like a lot of times, like you know what I mean, when it's school shootings, when it's these mass events, it's gonna be us that are attacking each other. You know what I mean? We're the biggest group here, and we're also like a group that's mentally messed up here. a lot of people, are mentally unstable in America, but so it kind of shows that like as a whole we're gonna be more affected by this. So it's gonna happen more, and I'm not just saying it's gonna happen more like murders and stuff, but like you know what I mean. It's history as a whole too. You know what I mean. Like assassinations don't happen every like 2 years. It's like every 20 years, every 40 years, a major one. For a while back in the day, there were a lot, but back in the '60s and through the '80s, security was a little bit different. There was the mob and other people and a lot of things that just stuff was different back then. Presidents would be in limousines, just with convertibles wide open. I wish I could be like that. Heck, if I was president, I'd probably be like that, but I'd probably get shot, so it's probably not a good idea. But like,
Don't break out
I
the
love the
convertible.
idea.
Your
Yeah.
president.
I like Cadillac.
Don't
Bring
go to
it, make
Dallas.
make a convertible again. Yeah, I would never go to Dallas. Nowhere with skyscrapers. But yeah, it's scary. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about. So we just have to realize what it is. People on the right, a lot of this is new to them because for a while they were a lot of the ones doing the attacking. They didn't think January 6th was really bad. So it kind of shows that political violence, like people on both sides are kind of desensitized to it. And we've talked about this too. Um, if you grew up kind of like our generation watching like Bud Dwyer shoot himself in the head in a government class like we did in government, like stuff's a little different where you're like, oh, this happens, and like assassinations are bad, suicides on national TV like he did was bad. It's interesting and it all gives perspective because that man had actually like a suicide note he gave out and never talked about. It's an interesting read. Um, I definitely know he was corrupt and definitely crazy, but interesting to how he went about it. So definitely, it's definitely a good time for perspective. Both sides kind of need to take a step back, relax, say, okay, don't let emotions just go crazy on this one. 'Cause a lot of it's hard when you have a side that's attacked with the emotions. But like I kind of said too, like 2 months ago when those Democratic lawmakers got shot, we saw so many memes. We saw memes, even with Charlie Kirk. I will say you could look up him making fun of when that sniper was trying to get shots off on Hillary. So like for right has this big like they're basically desensitized to the other side as well, and violence on the other side, death on the other side, making fun of it. We saw it with Nancy Pelosi and her husband. I saw it from a lot of people in our area. Just make jokes about her husband and that guy being gay, lovers. So it's like, come on, guys, like we just need to step back for a bit and realize violence is violence and it's bad. So that's it for me on this one, Tommy. How about you?
Pretty much the same. I wholeheartedly condemn, any sort of political violence. I condemn what happened to Charlie Kirk, and uh, I don't have much more to say other than that.
Yeah. I hope his family could heal. His wife watching that trauma, his kids not being able to grow up. That definitely sucks. But that's one thing too. A lot of it you can't hide like if you were mostly a hateful person in your life, you can't hide behind faith. That's kind of hypocritical to me, because you don't know what happens, in the afterlife. Your faith is tested, so you must live truly. And like I said kind of before, you are remembered how you lived in life. So I always personally like to live that way. It'll make you live with good ethics and be a good person. Um, Before we go into our next topic, because we have some crazy topics this week too. Um, just sad ones going on all around this country. Make sure you drop a like. We have our Facebook in the description. Follow us on there if you're watching the video on demand. We're here every Monday at 8:30. Our Northeast Ohio Sports Show is on Thursdays at 8:30. So make sure you drop and watch that. Tommy will be going into our local topic one.
Yeah, so our first local topic today is an update on the Ursuline situation. After Monday's show last week, there was a second lawsuit filed in federal court against Ursuline High School, brought by the same law firm that brought the earlier hazing abuse case. This time, the focus is alleged sexual harassment and assault of a female student by a football player. So, sort of the broad timeline here, it began in June 2023, before the student's freshman year. This student, age 14, at the time, players on the football team requested sex and nude photos, aka child pornography, and made unwanted physical advances arm touching, putting arms around shoulders, etc. And then on June 29th, 2023, there was an alleged assault where one of the players threw turf pellets at her face, chased her. They grabbed her waist, lifted her, dropped her on her back and face and stomach, and dragged her about 30 feet across the turf. So the injuries include burns and redness on the lower back, which are documented by photos. So reporting and school response. So the incident was reported by the students and mother to the assistant principal, who allegedly told them not to involve police and that the school would, quote, handle it. And the athletic director was also informed. So nobody made any sort of reports to law enforcement or children's services, and the harassment continued for 2 years despite repeated reports. The family later sold their home and moved to another school. So this was a Title X case, Title IX case. Sexual harassment and retaliation was assigned to a federal judge, Judge Benita Pearson, and this is a different suit than the first hazing and abuse lawsuit. So the letter to the parents, they called the Ursuline issued a response. They called the Reverend called the allegations extremely upsetting. I don't believe that they find them extremely upsetting because they would have did something about it 2 years ago.
Yep, you would make a big deal about it and not protect your star football players like they basically did in this case.
Yeah, reaffirm support for school leaders, and then they stated the administration interviewed parents, coaches, and players, reviewed available evidence. So I wonder if that means reviewing the child pornography that was requested. If that was produced, it's crazy what's going on. In the previous case, there was they recorded the Snapchat. The hazing in the Snapchat, and then that was saved. So when they reviewed available evidence, what exactly does that mean by a bunch of Catholic school officials?
But before you keep going, Tommy, it's interesting that people don't trust the government. They don't trust a public school that they could become a school board official on if they wanted to. But they'll trust the Catholic Church with this kind of stuff. It's kind of disgusting to me. But go on.
It is absolutely disgusting, particularly if you look at the history, of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, the altar boy situation, the moving of priests, the clear lack of accountability amongst the Catholic Church is just completely disgusting. And we're seeing it right here, come to play. The diocese, they don't care about our children, They do not care about them. All they care about is I'll be quiet. Broader context and implications. Comes shortly after the first lawsuit, alleges hazing and abuse by football players, raises concern over mandatory reporting, compliance, safety of students under supervision, reputation and accountability of Ursuline's school leadership. So my take on this is twofold. It's my first part is I want to give a shout out to the lawyers that took on this case.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know any details of their fee agreement. But certainly at first impression, they seem to be, taking up this fight against the corrupt Youngstown diocese. When no one else would, certainly the school officials didn't care about the responses. The police were never called. So ultimately, unfortunately, it was incumbent upon these families to take legal action against a school that doesn't care about them. So I do believe that the lawyers in this case deserve some credit, for finally doing the right thing and finally saying that, the rule of law and what the rule of law determines what is right and wrong, that trumps any sort of, bullshit notion of morality that the diocese may have. Yeah. So first off, I want to congratulate the lawyers. The second, my second part of the take is there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability. These coaches, were moving on. One of them was from Champion and then got sent to Ursuline. And there has to be accountability. And the steps that the school have taken that allegedly the school took after that, in terms of a cover up, they were telling them, don't tell anybody this,
Mm-hmm.
don't involve the police, don't talk about this. It's just completely ridiculous, and it shows that the school officials at Ursuline, they don't care about these kids. They just care about themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully by the vehicle that is this lawsuit, they will they will finally have to suffer.
Yep. And like people need to put their money where their
So,
mouth is. If they want to protect kids, don't be sending them to Ursuline. Don't go to an Ursuline football game. Don't give them money. Like it's, I
and then,
think they should get banned for a while. But sorry, go on.
yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we were saying, that the Ursuline people, the same people that have a Bible in their hand, and then they're letting this happen in their school. Um, they their response was to continue the football game, to continue the football season. It took a vast majority of the local schools, saying, we're not going to play you because what you allegedly did was wrong.
Yeah.
So even that most recent action by this supposed bishop, um, it shows that they're totally indifferent to the suffering
And Tommy, you know what's
of these
crazy?
kids, and it's disgusting.
If a Catholic church is for morally place to go, morally place to be, why did the public schools have to make that choice for them? Like Warren Harding saying we're not going to play you, and other schools say we're not going to play you, for them to be like, okay, we're going to cancel a football season. Because here's my thing, Tommy. They need a clean house. But even if you clean house, every other school is going to hate you so bad that you kind of don't want your kids playing them. Like is it fair?
Right.
Is it fair for new kids to get just destroyed out on the field because each team's mad at them because it's Ursuline? Like give them like a 3 year ban, clean house, 3 year ban. Let people and like these kids kind of forget about it because it's not really fair for like new kids to come in and just get crapped on in football. Now some people will be like, well, that's football, and I agree, but like it's not really the kid's fault either if they're new and not a part of hazing. Like it's sad. It's so sad because like it shows why people are so like why less people are turning to religion in America every year. Less and less. The Catholic Church wants to go, and like, other churches want to blame everything else, but they don't want to look at like themselves and what they've done. Because if you want to actually say like, oh, we've learned from the past, you would be hard about this. You know what I mean? If you're telling them they would handle it, tell them to, be quiet, don't tell people about it. It's disgusting to me. It really is. Ursuline's response, if it's upsetting, you would have fired the coach. And here's something that's interesting too, like psychologically. These are kids, so even if you change for rules, it's still big rules that they barely understand or don't care about. You need to actually, and like maybe I'm being a little bit more conservative with this, like be harsh, like set examples. That hey, if you do this, you're not going to
Yeah.
be allowed on football anymore. Kick them out of the school. This is a private school for God's sakes. Say if you're going to harass another kid, you're kicked out of the school and the program. You know what I mean? If a coach knows about it and defends it, he's fired. Do that. You can't say, oh, well, we're going to change rules. It's very upsetting. You would have changed people. You would have protected these women and these men that were also young men that were harassed in Youngstown over this. Like, you can't protect star football players again and again and again. And this is something that turned me off from football as a whole. And that, like, there is a history of this. There is a culture of this in a lot of high schools. And it's like, bro, it's fucking football in the long run. Like, football ain't building bridges. They're not providing us water, doing all law, driving our trucks. In the end of the day, we all leave this place and don't care about it. So, in the end, like, putting traumatic things with football just doesn't make sense to me. Don't allow that to happen. It's dumb. It's a sport. You know what I mean? If kids act like that, get them illegally in trouble, for JJC and just with assault, but also get them out of your school. Be harsh about it. Be right
And,
about it. That's how
and
private schools kind of should be, and you know what I mean. That's how it is for some other people too. If you're just another not school, not athletic kid and don't have that protection, and you get in a fight, you're kicked out. But go on, Tommy.
I'll be honest, like, I'm not crazy about school athletics to begin with in general. Like to me, school's a place you should go to get an education, not play football. Uh,
Yeah.
I think I understand that a lot of people, get a lot out of athletics and stuff like that, but I think it tends to breed bullying. I think it tends to breed, discontent,
Harassment like this. Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
harassment like this. And to me, it's like you don't send your kid to school you don't send your kid to Ursuline, so they can maybe play Notre Dame football. Like you send your kid to school to get an education. That's the point of school. But instead, we've seen, at both public and private schools, the football culture, the football team, the athletics. And to me, it just all is a big divergence and a big distraction. What really should be the primary focus of school, which is to get an education. I would much rather there be a lot more books than a lot more footballs in our schools here. Um,
Agreed.
what you were saying specifically when it comes to Ursula, and I agree with you. They taken no steps. They didn't fire anybody. That not only did they not implement a 3-year suspension, they didn't implement any suspension. They were they were forced to not play football, which shows that their true concerns is not with the health and safety of their students. It's with their football team and the supposed prestige that their school once had. So, another thing I think that's worth talking about is, just the parents, like these kids, the young man that was assaulted in the first lawsuit and the young woman that was assaulted in the second lawsuit. You know, the the kids that did that to these people. What is that? They what sort of upbringing did they have that they were even going to do this in the first place? You know what I mean? Like that's something to look at as well. Like
Hmm.
what sort of values were being taught to these children that where they thought that this was an acceptable behavior. I was young. I was a stupid high schooler. I
Hmm.
never did anything like this, and I don't think I ever, like on my worst day as a 13-year-old, I would have looked at this and I would have said, "This is wrong."
Yeah.
And I would have walked out of the room. So maybe there's a deeper problem here, what those kids were being taught at home that we
Hmm.
have to look at. Why
Good
did
point.
they
Yeah.
think this was acceptable to begin with? So that's sort of my take. I guess my final take is I'll say this. I really hate these people. I'll say this up
Yeah.
front.
Same.
Ursuline, the school, I really hate these people. Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Stop taking steps back. You putting a lot of people, a lot of religions in bed. It's scary spaces because it's just how do you trust them all if the biggest, oldest ones like this? It's scary. Um, and you need to protect kids. Like I said, if you're the side of protecting children, definitely be about it. Say, okay, maybe we actually need to fix some of these religions, some of these churches, how they're set up. There needs to be oversight for these private schools. So we would really be sending our kids there. Is that the smartest choice? We'll be going into a national news topic too. Don't forget to drop a like. We're pretty much over halfway done. Got one more national and one more local topic. Are you good, Tommy?
Yeah.
All right. Our national topic two is the Epstein Trump birthday book. The background: Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book greeting album was released. Um, a birthday book collected for Epstein's 50th birthday includes a message, drawings, novelties, and other items from a number of people, some of them prominent. Among these items are two documents allegedly bearing Donald Trump's signature. One, which is a note containing a risque drawing and outline a sketch of a woman and a suggestive text framed by the drawing. Two, a novelty check parody held by Epstein in a photo that bears the name DJ Trump signature on it. Trump's public statements. Trump and the White House deny that he signed the provocative note or the not novelty check. Trump called the controversy a dead issue, probably because he wants it to be. A defamation lawsuit has been filed by Trump against the Wall Street Journal over its reporting of the letter/note. I mean, if it was released by public information, it was released by that 3% new Epstein dump. I don't know how you could sue a publication for talking about it. What's being scrutinized and what's at issue, the authenticity of a signature. Whether the signatures in the birthday book match known examples of Chuck's signatures from that era. Experts note that providing a signature is authentic is difficult, especially with older documents and in the era of digital forgeries and editing. However, it was released by the government, so I don't know if they would edit that, making Trump look bad. Context of the note/drawing. The note has a typewritten text within the outline of a woman's body and includes a message along the lines of "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." The layout of the note and the drawing are provocative, which increases public and political interest. The implications, if authentic, might speak to how close Trump was to Epstein, even though they both said they were best friends, and whether the relationship was more public or continued longer than had been publicly described, and Trump kept it secret from people. It intensifies calls in Congress, especially among Democrats, for a full disclosure of all Epstein-related documents. We should only be protecting witnesses, like we've said before, and not these perpetrators. Response and denials. White House position asserts that the signature is not authentic, says that the note and drawing is not by Trump. Press secretary was trying her best to sweat and deny everything. Legal action, defamation lawsuit, like we said, against public media outlets, especially Wall Street Journal, over publications, congressional and political reactions. Some Republicans, including oversight committee leaders, have downplayed the issue. We wonder why. Trump's talked about that a little bit too. Some of them might be with the Epstein and some of these documents, saying it's old or that there's insufficient evidence. Democrats are pushing for more transparency, including release of unredacted or full versions of the Epstein files. Expert and scholarly input. Handwriting experts caution that signatures are often hard to verify decades later. Like we said, stylings change. But there's, I bet, a lot of public, just because Trump did real estate, signed documents even from back then. Some note that in Trump's case, his signature is also part of his brand, so there's an incentive to dispute or defend such claims because he doesn't want to hurt his brand. So basically, what's documented and what's unclear. Like we said, there is an existence of a birthday book for Epstein's 50th birthday. We just don't know if his signatures are genuinely Trump's. The fact that it's in there, and that obviously Trump's signatures were fakely put on there. Was it his secretary? Why is it even in there? You know what I mean? Why is there even a Trump note? A check.
Liam, while we're talking about the signature real quick, I put something in the docket. Could you screen share it real quick? I think this is real timely to do it now,
Oh yeah, we could do that.
since we're talking about the signature.
I'm gonna need a second, but yeah, I can. E.
We're doing this live, people. I was like, ooh, we're talking about signature. I got the perfect screenshot for this.
I'm pulling up the docket now.
So while Liam's doing that, what I found was when I was doing some research on this, I found a signature comparison. So what we're going to show you is on the top left, we have the 2003 drawing for Epstein's birthday book with Donald Trump's signature. So that's the signature in question. And then we got 1, 2, 3, we got 5 other signatures that are all confirmed to be from Donald Trump. A June 2001 letter to Rudy Giuliani, a December 1998 letter to New York City officials, a July 1998 letter to Rudy Giuliani again, a June 1995 letter to Rudy Giuliani, and a May 1987 letter to New York City officials. So this sort of shows the signature from the birthday book in comparison to these other confirmed signatures.
I don't know where'd this go. Alright, I'm pulling it over here because screen sharing takes a bit. Alright, so here are the signatures. So I'm basically showing them the signatures now.
Yeah. I mean, just come to your own conclusion if you look at this,
Yeah, I'll zoom in for you guys.
I'm no signature expert, but I think it's a real signature if you just look at the picture.
I mean, it looks pretty close. So we have the Epstein
Yeah.
book, top left. We have a 2001 letter to Giuliani. Two 2008, 2000, sorry, 1998, 1995, 1987. Yeah.
I think that July 1998 one and the 2003 one look very similar. Again, I'm not a handwriting expert,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry I just pulled this up right, pulled you off
And
guard a
like
little bit, but
that's a thing with Donald too. Like they're saying like oh because like you do see a lot of changes in his actual signature too. So like even though it's touching, the D's touching. I mean he's done that with three out of his four other signatures in the past, or I guess yeah 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5. Um, and like it's really only the D that doesn't look consistent to the rest. Like the D looks like something he did new here, or the rest is like his D looks like the 87 one kinda. The rest look exact, especially like the tail.
yeah, it's an
Yeah,
interesting
that looks like
question,
his
and
name.
I think people could draw their own conclusions.
Let me get my tablet going up again. Alright. The note with the explicit drawing, the novelty check have been released by Congress. And whether Trump was close to Epstein, this is what's unknown in recent years, or whether public perception aligns with document interaction. And that, like I said, maybe he was just lying to the public because he knew Epstein was a bad guy, but still friends with him in the background. That's a little scary. Let me get that out of here. Like I said, Trump has denied signing and drawing the items. It looks a lot like it. The full extent of the Epstein files and why and what additional documents may show. The political fallout and demand for discourse is growing, even from people on the right. And we see Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans are backing it. Some are afraid, the old timers are, probably because they're tied with it. Legal adjudication of the offensive claims. I'm going to be interesting as well, and if they actually do have implications they can get and evidence they could use and don't have insufficient evidence. The broader significance, symbolic power of a signature in the U.S. political culture. Presidential signatures are symbolic of authority, trust, and authenticity. When one comes under doubt, it can erode trust. For Trump, whose brand and image heavily lean on visible artifacts, signatures, imagery, spectacle, like his buildings. This kind of controversy hits at something at more than this piece of paper, and I think it's something that, with Trump, he's gonna try to make it a dead issue, but we won't allow it to make it a dead issue, and that we need transparency and oversight. Controversy adds weight to demands from Congress to release fully Epstein-related records. Raises questions on how past social relationships, especially with scandal taint fatigues like Epstein, are documented and obscured, and how you kind of sometimes protected from these people too. What makes Epstein so untouchable and so many people afraid of him? Like we kind of just need to know. I'm going to know eventually, but are we going to know in 20 years and 40 years? The media, politicians, and reputation. The issue is weaponized politically. Opponents say it shows lacks of credibility, or transparency. Supporters mostly dismiss it as partisan attack or forgery, which is sad. Even Trump was saying it. Oh, it's Obama. So like if they had that belief before, just because of the times it occurred, like it's sad. A lot of it occurred during Bush too. So it's like I really don't get it. It also illustrates how evidence data from decades ago can be revived and reinterpreted in today's polarized environment, especially with social media amplification and what people feel and want. Before our local news topic 2, we'll talk a little bit about it more next week. Me and Tommy will probably talk about it tonight, but make sure you check out, just people watching, stuff about what happened in Nepal. Apparently, like they basically overthrew the government through Discord, because Discord came out with an update last week that allows 24 million people in a server. So maybe you get them servers going. And they basically reenact, like basically voted the new, I don't know, call it like a parliament. Who's the head?
Prime
Prime
Minister.
Minister. Yeah, thank you. And like the military accepted it, which is crazy. There was some craziest happened. They killed some people in the streets and beat some people up in the streets, like some old Italy happening up in there. But we'll be talking about that next week. That's just crazy. NASA, like, I guess a world topic that happened. But Tommy will be going over our last topic, which is a local topic too.
Oh, we got one more after this.
Oh, my bad.
Uh, uh, I'll go through this really quick.
Are you good?
Local 2, 15 Valley school districts score lower on 2025 state report card. This just dropped today. So the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce released the 2025 state report card for school districts. The report card covers 6 key performance areas: achievements on state tests, student progress, closing gaps for underserved students, graduation rates, early reading skills, readiness for college, career, or military service. The overall rankings are on a 1 to 5 star scale in half-star increments. So 15 school districts in Mahoning and Trumbull counties saw their overall scores decline compared to previous reports, while several others held steady with no major changes. So in Trumbull County, Brookfield improved from 3 to 3.5 stars. Newton Falls rose from 3 to 3.5 stars, and Niles increased to 3.5. So districts with decline, we saw declines in Howland, Joseph Badger, Lakeview, Liberty, Lordstown, Matthews, McDonald's, Weathersfield, and Bloomfield Mespo. While some districts saw no change in their ratings, which includes Warren City Schools. So there were some bright spots locally. Trumbull TCTC, Trumbull Career Technical Center, continues to do well. Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because I think it really just shows the sort of harm that is caused by sort of programs like school vouchers, deviation from the fair school funding formula, all sorts of things like that that really hurt our students. Those that don't know, right now, Ohio, we've had quite the litany of education scandals, way back in the day. There was this online school controversy where literally millions and millions and millions of Ohioans, got sent to an online charter school that did not provide them any sort of meaningful education. I actually know a guy that did that, and did not get a good education. There's that controversy, but the Republicans, they keep on continuing this train of private schools, getting rid of public educations, and just sort of trying to push people into profit-centered schools, which, as I think we see today, certainly has negative implications for education in the state of Ohio. Ohio used to be a very very high regarded in education with our public schools, with our public universities. We've seen over the course of this year, Ohio Republicans in Columbus, they're waging a war on our public universities. Unfortunately, that recall effort did not succeed. So there's one front of the war of education. Now we're seeing, when it comes to our local schools and not our colleges, that the effects of these voucher programs, sending kids away from public schools, siphoning public money out of public schools, how this really negatively affects people. And it's so important that we invest in our children, make sure that they get a good education. That way, that they are able to live good, fulfilling lives, hopefully not be in poverty. And when we devalue that, we devalue, the lives of the next and up and coming generation. And it's just so unfortunate that the MAGA Republicans in Columbus are sacrificing the lives and education of our children in public schools so that their friends in power can get more money by these voucher programs. So it's just completely disgusting. We need to return to public education. To be clear, public education is not perfect. Certainly there needs to be, lots of work done in public education to make sure, that kids are not harassed and bullied, and, but it certainly is it's a better alternative than for-profit private schools that, serve to only, indoctrinate children in religion or to um, make as much money from families as possible. So just disgusting. And I think today's school report card illustrates that Republican policies are hurting our children when it comes to education.
Yep. And it's interesting to see like the districts that improved in Mahoning County, Austintown improved, Sebring, Strovers, West Branch, Youngstown. Some of these places are like the inner cities. Youngstown improved, so that's good. Strovers, area outside of Youngstown, Austintown, area outside of Youngstown.
You're
For
cutting out for me. I can't hear you.
oh, you're good. My bad. So it's nice to see that some of these areas are improving, like Austintown, Strovers, and Youngstown. That are like these city
Yeah.
schools that a lot of people would, like Tommy's saying, go to a charter school, go to a private school. You can go to Ursuline and get diddled. Nah, I'm good. I don't want to get beat up and diddled in Ursuline. So it's nice to see a lot of other
And
schools are improving.
it's it you know and Republicans will disingenuously point to these numbers as saying we need to invest more in charter schools, we need to invest more in private schools, and they will completely neglect the fact that they caused this decline in public schools, just like they're trying to cause a decline in our libraries. So
Yep.
the fact that our public schools are not doing well right now, some of them are not doing well, is not an indication that we need to invest more in private schools and charter schools. It's that we need to reinvest in these and return that public money to these schools.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot of people moved out of
that's real.
Youngstown. Austintown, Canfield, Boardman. You can't really be like Youngstown's bad now. It's like, well, you moved out of there like a lot of people did. So a lot of people's property values went down. The schools didn't do too well. They need funding. Like, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Any other
Is that all you had
input?
to say? Not one or nope. I'm ready to move.
All right,
So
yeah.
this is our last story for today. Our international topic, I threw this in here because I think it's not getting nearly enough coverage. So, Trump's public shrug over drone incursion in Poland fuels unease in Europe. So, key details of the incident. So, last week, about 19 drones entered Polish airspace during a Russian attack on Ukraine. Some reports place it between 19 and 23 drones. It's important to note that these drones it seems like that they were deliberately they were deliberately told to go into Polish airspace, and it was a pretty significant incursion into their airspace. So Poland shot down several of the drones. NATO allies were involved. Air policing, scramble of jets. Some drones were intercepted by non-Polish systems. Article 4 of the NATO treaty was invoked by Poland that allows for consultation amongst member states when one state believes their security or territorial integrity was threatened, which in this case, and clearly in the case of Poland right now, it was threatened.
Mm-hmm.
So the origin, the nature of the drones, many of the drones appear to have come from or were overflying Belarus. Those that don't know, Belarus is a key Russian ally. They're run by a essentially Europe's last dictator, a guy named Lukashenko, who is a bad guy. The drones seem to have been unarmed, some called decoy drones, or not carrying explosives, though the number and precise payloads remains under investigation. So some seem to have been unarmed. Some destroyed drones left debris in Polish territory, and wreckage was found. So domestic impact in Poland, at least one residential building was damaged, roof damage from falling drone debris, and airports in Warsaw and other Polish cities were closed. Polish Prime Minister, a guy named Donald Tusk, and their foreign minister
Tommy's a big
strongly
fan.
rejected the idea that the Donald Tusk, yeah, strongly rejected the idea that the incursion was a mistake. They called it deliberate. They are demanding clarity and action from allies, including the United States. So this is why that's sort of an outline of what's happening in Poland. U.S. response, Trump administration. President Trump initially responded with social media comments. Get this, Liam. This is what our president said. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Question mark. Here we go. That was the
Jesus.
response from the president of the United States. There was no meeting of no consultation with our allies, seemingly. There was no meeting of the Security Council. There was those steps of, what the United States is going to be, what the United States response is going to be to this. No, what's up with this, bro? That's our president.
Like Jerry Seinfeld. What's up with
and
that?
then he later said it could have been a mistake. This was not a mistake. The drones literally they turned into Poland and went very far into Polish airspace. Poland borders Ukraine. But where these drones, when the drone incursion, they ended up not near the Polish-Ukrainian border. So officials said Trump had a phone call with Polish president. He did express some concern and solidarity, but there was no public announcement of any new, military assistance or anything like that.
Yeah.
NATO European reaction. Visible unease among NATO members. Concerns over whether the U.S. will reliably defend its allies. Germany, Lithuania, and other Eastern European countries, as well as various NATO's officials, called the incursion unacceptable, dangerous, and possibly intentional. A new NATO initiative called Eastern Sentry is being stood up to strengthen air defense along the eastern flank and to better detect and intercept such incursions in the future. And of course, the Russians are going to lie. The Russians say that Russia claims that the drones were part of its larger attack on Ukraine, so I'm not even going to say this. I'm not going to regurgitate bullshit Russian propaganda on this show. Strategic long-term implications. The incident has become a litmus test for NATO's credibility and whether the U.S. will respond strongly in its role as leader of the alliance. The muted U.S. alliance worries European partners. Yeah, so why I wanted to talk about this, because it really shows a profound sense of weakness and a profound lack of understanding of international law, international politics, and just how the international order works. So there exists the United States, there exists the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a defensive pact. It is a defensive pact. It is not an offensive pact. So if a country attacks any NATO country, including the United States, including Poland, that country can then implicate I believe it's called Article 5 in the NATO treaty, which would then implicate sort of the collective defense part of NATO. So
I see.
NATO, which was founded after the Second World War, beginning into the Cold War, actually is 1948 to be exact, is an organization that has produced a long period of peace in this world. It got us through the Cold War without any sort of major military altercation between the United States and, at the time, the Soviet Union. But now we're living with Donald fucking Trump, who was just an idiot, okay? Yeah. And he doesn't realize that, hey, there's a major war going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. It's a legal war of aggression. And what that war is, it's a test on Europe, the United States, and the broader global West on if we are willing to defend these broader principles of international law and international order. Yeah. And what we saw under the Biden administration, the answer was very clearly yes. Okay? We gave lethal military assistance to Ukraine. We kicked Russia out of the international community. We placed extensive sanctions on them. Yep. We put a lot of pressure on Russia and helped our Ukrainian freedom-fighting brothers and sisters to preserve their democracy and to broadly preserve the world order that is rooted in international law. Mm-hmm. Now, new president, he's an idiot, okay? So what does Russia do? They send a drone incursion into Poland, a key NATO ally of the United States, to see what Donald Trump would do. Is he going to stand up for this conception of international law and international order by doubling down on condemning these Russian attacks and working with our European allies to reinforce security on NATO's eastern front to make sure that Russia knows, because a guy like Vladimir Putin would only respond to an increase in forces in Eastern Europe. Vladimir Putin doesn't care. Oh, you shouldn't do that. He's fucking Vladimir Putin. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, but of course that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Donald Trump, instead said it could have been a mistake. What's up with Russia violating Poland's airspace? No, that is not that's not the type of that's not the type of statements. That's not the type of actions, that should be done by the United States in support of our Polish ally. And also, ironically, it increases the likelihood of conflict in the future. Because, again, a guy like Vladimir Putin does not care what the United Nations says. He doesn't care what international law says. He will only respond, he will only hold off attacking if he believes that the United States would get involved and not let him attack.
Yeah.
And by us not responding to in what I believe is an intentional an intentional incursion into Poland, really it projects weakness. And it projects that the United States is no longer committed to making sure that we live in a world where one country can't just invade their neighbor and vice versa. So this is very, very concerning. And hopefully that, the Trump administration, will condemn Russia. I don't think that's going to happen. But certainly, when we get through this hell, this 3.5 years of hell that's going to be the Trump administration, if we have any standing on the world stage left, we're going to have to work on, rebuilding alliances and reaffirming that the United States believes in a rules-based international order where one country cannot just invade another willy-nilly. To be absolutely clear, I know the United States, we have been involved. We did the Iraq War. You know what I mean? I understand the hypocrisy in all this.
Yeah.
Okay? I understand the hypocrisy in what I'm saying. But the fact remains that our country, the United States, is the only country in the world that, at least at one time, believed in a rules-based international order and had the power to actually try to make that go into effect for a broader global stability.
Yeah.
And now we're not seeing that anymore with Donald Trump, and it's very, very, very concerning. We need to be consulting with our allies, consulting with our NATO friends, and taking steps against Russia and not just saying, it could have been a mistake. What, bro? So that's my take on this. Liam, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of interesting how this happened just right after Trump and Putin met. I don't know if that's part of the plan. I don't think in this day of technology, it's really easy for this to happen. Even if they got jammed or scrambled, that's not how it works. They would have got lost. You don't really, if you have 7 drones that are scrambled, there's 7 drones going to be, 300 miles away in the same area. No, they're all going to be going in different directions. So, it's just scary. And, I think it's going to be a test to see how much Trump will bend for Putin. We're lucky nothing happened, but it kind of shows that, okay, well, if it happens again and we shoot it down and they get mad or, they actually hurt people, what will we do? We really need to think about this and do more against it. And that's something that,
because
for Ukraine war kind of stalling out, we need to help that out. This could hurt peace talks. But go on, Tommy.
The way this kind of goes down, a guy like Vladimir Putin's thinking, hey, I just flew my drones into Poland and they didn't do anything. I kind of want this area along this big river that could be used for industrial applications in Russia. You know, if I do this, what will the response be by the West? They didn't do anything when I flew my drones in there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But that's the kind of guy you're dealing with, and when you're dealing with a guy like that, you can see how just merely doing nothing um, is a bad move. I'm not saying we need to go attack Russia right now, but should we be doing something? Absolutely, yeah.
Agreed. And more sanctions, more hurt on them, more money to Ukraine, more training, maybe more
Right.
help. You know what I mean?
You know,
This war shouldn't be that
send them
stagnated.
over. Yeah. You send them over some air defense missiles in Poland, you know, so they'll have better capability to shoot down those drones. Another thing I wanted to say very briefly, I know I'm rambling, is a lot of these drones actually now, you know, you're mentioning scrambling and stuff like that. A lot of these drones now actually possess like onboard like mapping software, like AI, so they can like autonomously like navigate themselves, and they've developed that because of the jamming in the Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, so depending on the model of drone that was used, you know, like it may have been that the AI in the drone was made to go into Warsaw, Poland. You know, like
Yeah.
who knows?
Exactly.
It
That's
seems like it was
interesting.
intentional, and definitely, you know, we need to take some stronger responses to this. So that's all I had to say on this. I just wanted to cover this because it's been really overshadowed with the Charlie Kirk news and everything. And I think this is one of those news stories that, you know, is perhaps not very flashy, you
Hmm.
know, but is something that I think is incredibly, incredibly important. You just got to kind of know what you're looking for in a story like this.
Agreed. And that's it for me. I appreciate everyone staying in, watching the longer episode we had tonight. We'll try to do some international topics. But we had a lot of busy news this week with Charlie Kirk and Ursuline, so wanted to go through that. And if you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like. Helps us with the YouTube algorithm. You could follow us on our Facebook in the description. That's it for me. Anything before we go, Tommy?
Thank you for having me on. I'll be on next week. Thankfully, I did not get sick this week. Hurrah!
Yep.
And I'll be on next week. Make sure you check out Liam's other shows, and
Yeah, I can go
had a
over
good time.
those. Thank you, Tommy. We got a Northeast Iowa Sports Show on Thursday, Healthy Living Show on Sunday. Northeast Iowa Sports Shows at 8:30. Go over to Facebook for Healthy Living. We try to do 2 or 4. And that's it for me. We'll be here next week for our show at 8 o'clock. Be there or be square. Good night, Youngstown. Appreciate you stopping by.